Welcome. Today we're making crispy golden onion rings that are sure to be a hit. Whether you're serving them as a snack, side dish, or appetizer, these homemade onion rings are packed with flavor and crunch. Grab your onions, heat up the oil, and let's dive into making the best onion rings you've ever tasted. Alright, let's get started on these delicious, crispy onion rings. Here's what we'll need. 2 large onions. These are our stars of the show, sliced into beautiful rings. 1 cup of all-purpose flour and 1/4 cup of cornstarch for that perfect coating. A teaspoon of baking powder to keep things light and crispy. Don't forget a teaspoon of salt. Half goes in the batter, the other for seasoning. Optional flavor boosters. Half a teaspoon each of garlic powder and paprika for that extra zing. 1 large egg and 3/4 cup of milk to bind everything together. 2 cups of breadcrumbs, panko, if you want maximum crunch, and of course, vegetable oil for frying. Heat it up because crispy goodness is coming your way. Grab everything and let's make magic happen in the kitchen. Alright, first things first, let's prep our onions. Take 2 large onions, you can use white or yellow for the best flavor, and peel them. Once they're peeled, slice them into about 1/4 inch thick rings. Now, this is where it gets fun. Separate the rings carefully. You want to get nice, individual rings, so just work slowly and gently. If you find some of them a bit too thin, don't worry, they'll still fry up fine, but thicker ones will give that perfect crispy bite. Once you've got all your rings separated, set them aside, and let's move on to the next step. Now it's time to get our 3 coating stations ready. Grab 3 bowls, 1 for your dry mix, 1 for the wet, and 1 for the breadcrumbs. In the first bowl, combine 1 cup of all-purpose flour, 1/4 cup of cornstarch, a teaspoon of baking powder, and half a teaspoon of salt. This is where we start building the base for that crispy exterior. Give it a good mix. Now, in your second bowl, whisk together 1 large egg and 3/4 cup of milk. This will help the dry ingredients stick to the onion rings. And finally, in the third bowl, pour out your 2 cups of breadcrumbs. If you want that extra crunch, go for panko breadcrumbs, but regular ones work just as well. Alright, stations are set. Let's get frying. Before we start coating, let's get the oil ready for frying. You want to use enough oil to fully submerge those onion rings, so about 2 to 3 inches deep in your pan. Heat it up to about 350 degrees Fahrenheit or 175 degrees Celsius. This is the ideal temperature for frying. Too hot and the rings will burn. Too cold and they'll just soak up all that oil. If you don't have a thermometer, don't worry. Drop a small piece of bread in there. If it browns in about 30 seconds, you're good to go. Now, while the oil heats up, we're going to coat those onion rings next. Alright, it's coating time. Take your first onion ring and dredge it in the flour mixture, making sure it's fully coated. You want to tap off any excess flour. It's all about the perfect amount sticking to the onion. Then, dip it into the egg and milk mixture. Give it a little shake to remove any extra liquid. Now, press it into the breadcrumbs, covering it completely. Make sure every part is coated for that ultimate crunch. You can repeat the flour, egg, breadcrumb process if you like a thicker coating. It's all about your personal crunch preference. Once all your rings are coated, it's time to start frying. Now let's get these beauties in the oil. Carefully drop your coated onion rings into the hot oil one at a time, making sure not to overcrowd the pan. If you add too many, the temperature will drop and you'll end up with soggy rings. Fry the rings in batches for about 2 to 3 minutes, or until they turn golden brown. They should float to the top and be beautifully crisp. Use tongs or a slotted spoon to remove them and place them on a paper towel-lined plate to drain the excess oil. Repeat the process with the remaining onion rings until they're all golden and crispy. Just imagine how good these are going to taste. Alright, we're almost there. As soon as the onion rings come out of the fryer, sprinkle a little pinch of salt over them while they're still hot. This is the key moment where that salt will really stick and make them irresistible. Now, serve them up with your favorite dipping sauces, classic ketchup, ranch, or even spicy mayo if you want to kick. Enjoy them fresh, right out of the fryer, for that unbeatable crunch. Trust me, these onion rings will disappear fast, so get ready to share, or just enjoy them all yourself. Lastly, a few quick tips for perfect onion rings. First, make sure your oil is at the right temperature, around 350 degrees Fahrenheit, because if it's too low, the rings will soak up too much oil, and if it's too high, they'll burn. To test, drop a small piece of bread in the oil. If it browns in about 30 seconds, you're good to go. Also, make sure to dry your onions before coating them. Any moisture will cause the batter to slide off. If you want extra crispy rings, use panko breadcrumbs for more crunch. And for an extra thick coating, double dip the rings, flour, egg, breadcrumbs, then repeat. Finally, serve them fresh. Onion rings are at their best when they're crispy right out of the fryer. Enjoy your crispy, crunchy onion rings.